Hello, my name is Richard Dunks with the Community Data Empowerment Project. And I want to start off talking about the different data sets from Dallas Police Department with the Police Incidence data set. So this is an interesting data set that comes from Dallas Police Department, and it's incidents that come to dispatch. So someone calls 911, says something is happening, a domestic disturbance, a burglary, something like that. That goes into the system, a unit is dispatched out, and then the result of that also gets entered into the system. So the incidence is the actual crime itself that's taking place. As you can see here, there are 5 exclusions in the type of incidents that are in this data set. So no sexually oriented offenses, so pornography, fondling, rape, prostitution, things like that aren't in here. Offenses or juveniles or children under the age of 16 are the victims or suspect. Listing of properties might be considered evidence, social service referral offenses, which is actually a majority of DPD incidents or arrests that they respond to, and identifying vehicle information in certain instances. So this isn't a complete data set for some good reasons, but it does have most of the incidents. Also on this data set, we have our metadata about it, so when it was updated very recently. I'm recording this on August 12th. It's been updated August 12th. You see the number of views, it downloads, it is updated daily, 622,000 rows, 100 columns. And then we have a description of the columns in here, which is really helpful to understand, okay, what do these columns mean? Most times they're helpful, not always. Reporting area, beat, division, sectors, that's described, that's really great. The target area action grids, these are geographic areas with targeted enforcement based on their crime rates. So you have some descriptions here. Unfortunately, the CFS number just says CFS number. Doesn't really tell us what a CFS is. So this can be helpful, and we'll see this isn't in all the data sets that we look at. Click on the View Data, and you're going to be taken to the data set itself. So there's a lot of fields. There's 100 fields in this data set, and you can see it gets kind of messy pretty quick. The key things I want to point out here, you have an incident number with year. So each incident has a unique number. It is this incident number, basically a case file number, and then a year at the end of it. And that becomes then the identifier for that incident. This is really important because this is what allows us to link an incident to an arrest. So an arrest number will identify the arrest, as we'll see in a moment, and we'll see in a different video, but that'll be tied back to the incident number for where it happened. Then you have some information about it, the call, what we call 911, the type of incident, which may not be the same. You call up thinking it's one thing, ends up being something else. Type of location, so you have some information about the place, the location, the division, the beat, the sector, the reporting area. These are all internal DPD administrative areas, basically. So the division is broken down into sectors and beats, and divisions do a sector into a beat, and then the reporting area. So these are more granular units that DPD uses to identify location of crime. You have the council district. Notice it's not in there for every single one. And you have the date of incident. So this is where it gets a little confusing because you have the date of incident, the year, the month, the day, the time. It gets broken out more. And then if there is another incident related to this incident, another occurrence anyway of this incident, that'll be in the day 2 of it, again, also broken down. You'll have the date of report, so this should be when the report was made to DPD, and then the date incident created. So if for whatever reason, there might be a discrepancy here where the date was, so someone called in and then it wasn't created right away for whatever reason. I'm sure there's lots of reasons why that may happen. And then there's some just breakouts of this, the entered year, the entered month, day of the week, things like that, so they can administratively know when these reports were created. CFS number, I'm actually not really sure about. It'd be interesting if anyone knows, put that into the comments. And then there are some times. So the call received date time, the call date time should be the same thing. Call cleared date time, so is when a unit clears the scene, and then when a unit was dispatched. Notice there is no when the unit arrived on scene. So response times we're not able to calculate with this data. And then there is description of who's involved, the victim, demographics on the victim, the name, address, all those kinds of things about the victim themselves, who the responding unit was. Now this has the badge numbers and then it has the officer's name. I'm going to point out this is the only data set where we see the badge numbers and the names linked together. The other data sets, as we'll see, have only the badge numbers. So this becomes an interesting data set for understanding which officer is responding to the crime and its progress. There's an element unit. So officers are assigned to an element. This may have one or two officers in it. And this becomes interesting for, as we'll see in a different data set, the active calls, only the element is reported. But with the historicals, you could identify which are the likely officers in responding to it. And there's some more things about the offense itself, what it was, things about it. Was it a family offense, a hate crime? Was there a weapon involved? Was it gang related? And other things about it. You have in here some reporting. So the criminal code, penal code, UCR offenses, and NIBRs. Let me explain this for a second. The Uniform Crime Reporting System was an original system by the FBI, Department of Justice, to categorize crime that was related to the offense. They've shifted into NIBRs, the National Incident-Based Reporting System, that is more specific to the incident itself. It's a more detailed, it's the future of crime reporting. It's the present, and for some districts, it's a future. Dallas made its switch in 2017. While it's still populating some of the UCR information sometimes, almost everything now is NIBRs, or should be NIBRs anyway, with that information. Then there is the update time when this was updated, and then there is the location information. This is where it's interesting. The X and Y coordinates aren't your latitude, longitude you're used to from the GPS. This is actually Texas State Plain, the North Central Texas State Plain. I'll do a separate video about that. But it's an X and Y in feet from a central reference point, and it's specific to this area of Texas. So I'll do a video about that. So you have the zip code of the incident, the city where the incident happened. And then notice in the field, you actually have the latitude, longitude in there with the address. Now, about 97% of these have locations, and then locations with the X and Y coordinates and the latitude, longitude in there. It is not easy to get those coordinates out. It's a really gnarly function. I have a Twitter post about this. I'll try and link into it in the notes. To get that latitude, longitude out of there. It's a bit of a challenge, unfortunately. But it's the best we have because incident data is the only one that has an X and Y coordinate, and in this case, a latitude, longitude for where incidents happened. Otherwise, you have just addresses, and then you have to map those as a different process you have to go through. So that's a really quick overview of the police incidents data set. I hope this has been helpful for you, and thank you very much for your time.